Hi there, I'm Jen, this is Remembered Reads, and this is going to be the Ultimate Book Lovers tag. I was tagged by Lily from Lacaios Reads. She tagged me back in July, and I've been really slow getting around to this. And this tag was created by Sam's Nonsense. I will link both of their channels below. Question number 1 is, what are your 3 favorite books? That kind of changes moment to moment, but for now I'm going to say that my 3 favorite books are K.Sello Dijker's The Quiet Violence of Dreams, which I talk about quite a lot. This is about Cape Town in the early 2000s. Pat Barker's The Ghost Road, which is the final book in her Regeneration trilogy, which is both about some original characters and also about Siegfried Sassoon and Wilfred Owen, and it is obviously a First World War story. This won the Booker back in 1995. And finally, Robertson Davies' Fifth Business, which is about the wacky adventures of a First World War veteran in the first half of the 20th century. I talked about this at great length in the Reading My Country tag. Question number 2, top 3 least favorite books. I usually stop reading books if I don't like them. Now, that's not entirely true. Okay, some of my least favorites would be Ben Rabb's run on Excalibur, and Dan Brown's Angels and Demons, which I read for a book club because otherwise I wouldn't have finished, and Dies the Fire by S.M. Sterling, I think was the author. I also read that for a book club, and otherwise I don't finish books that I'm not enjoying, so I don't really have least favorites. Even with those, I wouldn't say I absolutely hated any of that. I just, yeah, meh. Question number 3 is, who is a popular author that you love? I really enjoy Robin Hobb's writing. I had a few issues with the way that last Fitz and the Fool trilogy ended, but even so, I really enjoy her writing, and she seems to be everywhere on BookTube, so she is quite popular. Question number 4 is a popular author that you don't love, and Dan Brown is a popular author that I definitely do not love. Question number 5 is an underrated book that you think everyone should read. This is not a book that I think everyone should read, but I do think that people who like grimdark fantasy should read The Steel Remains and this whole Land Fit for Heroes series. Because I hear a lot of people talking about grimdark and it's all about Mark Lawrence and Joe Abercrombie. But this stuff is great fun, and I think a lot less repetitive than Joe Abercrombie. Again, not to everyone's taste, so I don't actually think everyone should be reading this. But if you do enjoy grimdark, I think this is worth the read. Question number 6 is a series you won't finish. At this point, I think I am probably not going to finish Stephen King's The Dark Tower series. I think the last one that I read was Wizard in Glass, right around when it came out in paperback, so it has been many years since I've touched that series. So yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to finish that. I think I bought The Wolves of Calla, and I think I have that in storage. I don't have it with me, but yeah, I haven't read it, and I don't think I'm going to read the rest of them, probably. Not that there's anything wrong with them, just that I just don't feel like I'm particularly interested in that anymore. Question number 7 is your earliest bookish memory. I'm not sure. My parents definitely always had a lot of books around, both books that they were reading and I feel like my earliest bookish memories should be either reading, my mother was always a big fan of reading us really old Nancy Drew mysteries out loud, and my father always had a lot of like Tintin, Asterix books that he would let us look through. But actually I think my earliest bookish memory is my mother's youngest sister, who is significantly younger than her, was reading one of the Lord of the Rings books. And I remember being really young, and she was reading one of the songs that was in there, and I don't know, I just have a distinct memory of her reading that and me having no idea what any of that was about and being fascinated by the fact that I didn't know what any of it was about. So maybe that might be my first bookish memory, I'm not really sure. Question number 8 is, what is your favorite bookish memory? And one of my favorite memories was I was reading C.S. Friedman's This Alien Shore on the bus while I was in university, and I had a really long bus commute. Like, my commute was like an hour and a half one way. So I remember reading this book, and I'd been a fan of C.S. Friedman's Cold Fire trilogy, so I picked this up without knowing what it was about. And there's a certain point in this book where if you haven't read what this is about and you're just anticipating a straightforward space opera, there's a certain point that you hit where you suddenly realize what this is doing when it comes to almost playing with ideas of mental illness, which, because it's in an alien setting, you don't notice at first. And embarrassingly, I actually laughed out loud on the bus while reading this. I think it was embarrassing at the time, but I haven't had a lot of books that made me embarrass myself in public like that. So, question number 9 is, what is your favorite genre to read? I don't really have a single favorite genre to read. I do quite enjoy reading anything that's set during the First World War, which is kind of a cross-section of historical fiction, mysteries, literary fiction, things like that. But that's not really a single genre, so. But let's pretend that it is. Question number 10 is, what is your least favorite genre to read? And my least favorite genre to read is romance, because I'm grumpy and cynical. Question number 11 is, one difficult or important book that you're proud to have read. I don't know that I have one. I know when I was in my last year of high school, I was taking this OAC English class. We had an assignment where we had to read an author from a particular list of classic authors. And I decided that I was going to read War and Peace because even if my assignment wasn't good, the teacher would be impressed that I had finished it because it was the longest book on the list. And I feel like I wasn't wrong because I did get a good mark on that assignment. And the teacher told other teachers, not that I had done a great assignment, but that I had chosen to read War and Peace. So I wasn't wrong. That's not exactly, I think, what this is looking for, but hey. Question number 12 is, what is your favorite childhood book? And I don't really know. Question number 13 is, what is your favorite book cover? And I don't think this is my favorite book cover of all time, but I was just moving some things around on shelves, and I do think that the cover of Dong Thu-hong's The Zenith is very pretty, with the mountains and the blues and the door frame framing the cover. I think that's quite pretty. Question number 14 is an ugly book cover. And I think the ugliest book cover I have, or not necessarily ugly, but is this copy of The Naked Ape, which makes it look like some sleazy 70s book, doesn't it? When in fact, this is pop science from the 60s and not a sleazy 70s. Yeah. So I was just editing this video and I realized that I forgot question number 15, which is recommend a diverse book. My default to hold up, of course, is always The Quiet Violence of Dreams, but I think almost everything that I mentioned in a positive note has some element of diversity to it, because otherwise it would not be a particularly good representation of humanity, or of aliens. And question number 16 is, why do you love to read? Because I like to find things out. I mean, that tends to be a reason to read nonfiction, but I think even reading fiction, you get pieces of attitudes and ways of thinking about things, and it's learning. Yeah, constant learning, that's why. So, and thanks again to Lily for tagging me, and that's it for now. Ciao.